up? See, y'all made it. So y'all ready? Welcome to Tales from the Block.
New York City, 2000. A legendary high-fashion agency prepares to launch its newest star, a 19-year-old black model named Simone. Days before her debut, she vanishes. The agency owner, the powerful Mr. Armand, spins a tale of relapse and runaway dreams. A week later, a stunningly lifelike mannequin named Simone appears in his private, locked atelier. For 20 years, it stands there, an icon of haunting realism, its presence masked by the scent of chemicals Armand claims are for preserving vintage leather. Then, in 2020, Armand dies. The agency's longtime janitor, Franklin, tasked with clearing the atelier, makes a horrifying discovery. An accidental slip reveals a hidden scar, and the truth about the mannequin unravels a 20-year-old secret, exposing a dark obsession hidden in plain sight. The end of Armand's reign came not with a dramatic collapse, but with a quiet, undignified silence. On a Tuesday morning in the spring of 2020, Mr. Armand failed to emerge from his private office suite. This was not entirely unusual. He often kept erratic hours, but when his noon meeting came and went, his longtime personal assistant grew concerned. Using her master key, she let herself into his inner office. She found him slumped in his large leather chair behind his antique desk, a cup of cold coffee beside him, his eyes closed, his face peaceful. He had suffered a massive, fatal heart attack sometime during the night, alone in the opulent sanctuary he had built for himself. The news of Mr. Armand's death sent immediate shockwaves through the fashion industry. Franklin, the man who had quietly maintained this space for over 30 years, found himself clearing out Mr. Armand's private atelier. The room, locked since Armand's death, held not only the priceless vintage couture collection, but also its silent, unnerving centerpiece, the infamous Simone mannequin. The liquidators, practical, unsentimental men in suits, had specific instructions for the figure. It was deemed a potentially valuable asset, a unique piece of fashion art. It was to be carefully removed from its stand, packed into a custom-built, padded crate, and transported to a secure, climate-controlled storage facility pending appraisal and potential auction. The task of moving the figure itself fell, inevitably, to Franklin. He was the only one left who knew the room, the only one who had ever been regularly entrusted with its care. He unlocked the heavy insulated door one last time, the familiar rush of cool, chemically scented air washing over him. The room was exactly as he had always known it, meticulously ordered, eerily silent. The gowns hung in their bags, ghosts waiting for a ball that would never come. And in the center, under its soft spotlight, stood Simone, its lifelike gaze fixed on some distant, unseen point. Franklin approached the figure with a familiar sense of reluctance, mixed now with a strange, unexpected pang of something akin to sympathy. He had never liked the mannequin, had always found it creepy, unsettling. But now, seeing it standing alone in the soon-to-be dismantled sanctuary, it looked less like a monument to Armand's ego and more like another victim of his obsessive world, a fellow prisoner about to be moved from one gilded cage to another. He walked around the platform, assessing the best way to lift the figure. He knew from years of cleaning around it that it was anchored to the base somehow. He found the small, almost invisible release latches near the feet and carefully disengaged them. Now, the figure stood freestanding, balanced only by its own internal structure. It was time for the final, unpleasant task. He had to lift it, carry it the few feet to the large, waiting crate. He braced himself, placing his hands carefully on its waist and shoulders, preparing to move the silent, 20-year-old secret. Franklin positioned himself, bending his knees as he'd been taught, ready to lift the heavy, awkward weight of the mannequin. He gripped its waist and shoulders firmly and initiated the lift. He was immediately surprised by two things. First, the figure was far heavier than any normal mannequin should be, possessing a dense, solid weight that felt unnervingly substantial. Second, it was completely rigid, lacking the slight flexibility or give one would expect even from a high-quality fiberglass or resin form. It felt less like lifting a sculpture and more like trying to move a small, unyielding statue. He strained, his 70-year-old muscles protesting, and managed to hoist the figure a few inches off its stand. He took a shuffling step backwards, towards the waiting crate. But the figure's weight, combined with its absolute rigidity, made it incredibly difficult to balance. As he took a second step, his foot caught slightly on the edge of the plush carpet surrounding the platform. He stumbled, the figure tilted precariously in his arms. He tried to regain control, but its dead weight was too much. It slipped from his grasp, not crashing to the floor, but landing heavily, awkwardly, against the padded interior edge of the open crate. The impact wasn't loud, just a solid, dull thud. Franklin winced, expecting to see a crack, a chip, some damage to the priceless artwork. But the figure seemed unharmed. However, the jolt had dislodged something. The perfectly styled, dark hairpiece, the wig, had slipped, knocked askew by the impact, revealing the top edge of the form beneath. Franklin automatically reached out to straighten the wig, his janitor's instinct to restore order taking over. His fingers brushed against the exposed area just behind the figure's left ear, at the point where the hairline met the neck. He intended to simply nudge the wig back into place, but his fingers froze. Beneath the displaced edge of the wig, on the pale, smooth surface that he had always assumed was painted plastic or wax, was something else. Something small, pale, and distinctively curved. A scar. A small, crescent-shaped scar. Franklin's blood ran cold. He snatched his hand back as if burned. His mind, slow and methodical, began to race, flipping back through 20 years of memory. He saw a young woman, 19 years old, with a quiet smile and thoughtful eyes, pulling her hair back as she spoke to him by the water cooler. He saw the flash of that same, unique, crescent-shaped scar just behind her ear. Simone. He stared at the figure, at the askew wig, at the small, pale scar. It wasn't similar. It wasn't a coincidence. It was identical. The accidental slip, the dislodged wig. It was the breach. The tiny, random fissure in a 20-year-old facade that had just revealed an impossible, horrifying truth. Franklin felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, the cold, chemically scented air of the atelier suddenly feeling thick, suffocating. He leaned against the edge of the crate, his gaze locked on the figure, on the small, pale scar that had just ripped a hole in his reality. The scar. It was Simone's scar. He knew it. He remembered it. He forced himself to breathe, to push past the rising tide of panic and disbelief. He had to be sure. He had to know. Driven by a need that felt primal, urgent, he stepped closer to the figure again, his earlier revulsion replaced by a cold, forensic curiosity. He forced himself to look, truly look, at the object he had shared this room with for 20 years. The object he had so carefully, so deliberately, avoided examining too closely. He reached out a trembling hand, not towards the scar, but towards the figure's cheek. He pressed his fingertip against the surface. It was cool, yes, and firm. But it wasn't the hard, unyielding smoothness of plastic or fiberglass. It had a very slight give, a subtle yielding quality that felt disturbingly organic. And the texture. He looked closer, his eyes inches from the face. He could see them, tiny, almost invisible, but undeniably there. Pores. The surface wasn't perfectly smooth. It had the microscopic texture of real skin. His gaze dropped to the hands that had always unsettled him with their realism. He looked at the fingernails. They weren't just painted shapes. They had the distinct individual curves, the faint ridges, the pale moons at the base. He remembered Simone briefly showing him her nails once, laughing about how she could never keep polish on them because they grew in a slightly unique, curved shape. These were those nails. The chemical smell, the one Armand had dismissed as leather preservative, seemed stronger now, pungent, acrid, up close. It wasn't the smell of decay, it was the smell of arrested decay. Preservation. Franklin's mind, slow and steady, began to connect the dots. assembling the horrifying equation. The impossible realism, the scar, the skin texture, the fingernails, the persistent chemical odor. It wasn't a mannequin. It couldn't be. His gaze traveled back up the figure, his eyes scanning every detail, searching for confirmation, for denial, for anything to make sense of the monstrous thought forming in his mind. He looked at the hair, the edge still displaced. He realized with a new wave of nausea that it wasn't a wig. It was rooted, growing directly from the scalp, exhibiting the subtle variations in color and texture of real human hair. The unmasking was complete. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, written on the very surface of the object itself. The Simone mannequin was not a tribute. It was not a sculpture. It was Simone, the real Simone, preserved, kept, displayed. Franklin felt the floor tilt beneath him, the 20 years of quiet unease, of dismissed suspicions, coalescing into a single, blinding, horrifying moment of absolute certainty. Franklin stumbled back, his mind reeling, desperately trying to process the monstrous reality he had just uncovered. Simone, preserved. How? Why? The questions hammered at him, but his focus snagged on the how. The chemical smell, the preservation. It implied a process, an intervention. His gaze, now morbidly forensic, traveled back to the figure, searching for any sign, any clue that might explain the impossible state of the remains. He scanned the face, the neck, the exposed skin of the shoulders where the gown dipped low. Everything looked perfect, too perfect. The preservation was flawless, almost unnaturally so. There were no visible marks, no sutures, no signs of the kind of invasive procedures typically associated with embalming or taxidermy. Then, his eyes caught on a detail he had never noticed before, a detail deliberately obscured by the mannequin's costume. The figure was dressed in a high-collared, vintage couture gown, the fabric rising elegantly almost to the jawline, but in the slight crease where the neck met the collarbone, almost perfectly hidden by a fold of dark velvet, he saw it. A tiny, dark mark. He leaned in again, his breath held, his flashlight beam focused on the spot. It wasn't a mole or a freckle. It was too precise, too symmetrical for a natural imperfection. It was a small, almost perfectly circular mark, perhaps no bigger than the head of a pin, slightly indented, its edges clean and sharp. It looked like a puncture. A tiny, deliberate puncture point, strategically placed in an area that would be easily concealed by clothing or jewelry. What was it? An injection site, a drainage point. The implications were chilling. Had this mark been part of the process that had led to Simone's dark fate? Or was it part of the grotesque process that had preserved her afterwards, a clue to the method Armand had used to turn a person into an object? The mark was the final, horrifying punctuation mark on his discovery. It hinted at a level of cold, calculated, clinical precision that was even more terrifying than the initial shock of realizing the figure was human. This wasn't just an act of passion or obsession. It was an act of meticulous, methodical, and monstrous control. Armand hadn't just kept Simone. He had processed her, transforming her body with a chilling, detached artistry, leaving only this tiny, hidden signature of his terrible work. Franklin felt a wave of profound, visceral sickness wash over him. He couldn't stay in this room a second longer. He backed away, his eyes still fixed on the figure, on the hidden mark, the final, terrible clue. He turned and fled the atelier, leaving the heavy door swinging open behind him, the cool, chemically scented air pouring out into the hallway like a toxic secret finally escaping its confinement. Franklin stumbled out of the atelier and into the chaotic, brightly lit main space of the agency loft, his heart pounding, his mind a whirlwind of horror and disbelief. Movers and liquidators bustled around him, wrapping furniture in plastic, packing boxes, oblivious to the monstrous secret he had just uncovered in the room down the hall. He leaned against a wall, trying to catch his breath, trying to process the enormity of his discovery. Simone, preserved, displayed for 20 years. The chemical smell, the scar, the puncture mark. It was all real. Armand hadn't just been an eccentric, obsessive collector. He had been a monster, hiding his ultimate act of possession in the most audacious way imaginable, right under their noses, disguised as art. For 20 years, Franklin had lived with a quiet unease about that room, about that figure. He had accepted the lies, dismissed his own intuition, chosen the path of least resistance. He was just the janitor, after all. Who would have believed him? The weight of those 20 years of silence now pressed down on him, heavy and suffocating. He thought of Simone, the vibrant, determined young woman he remembered. Her life cut short, her body turned into a grotesque trophy. He thought of her family, who likely still believed the cruel story Armand had spun about her running away, throwing her life away. He knew what he had to do. The fear was still there, fear of not being believed, fear of repercussions even now, fear of dredging up a past that powerful people might still want buried. But the horror of the truth, the profound injustice of Simone's fate, outweighed his fear. He owed it to her. He owed it to himself. Shaking, Franklin pulled out his old, battered cell phone. His first instinct was to call the agency manager overseeing the liquidation, but he stopped himself. No, this couldn't be handled internally. This wasn't an agency matter. It was a crime. A monstrous, 20-year-old crime. He scrolled through his contacts, past the numbers for his children, his church, his doctor. He found the number he was looking for, the main precinct line for the NYPD. He hesitated for only a second, took a deep, steadying breath, and pressed the call button. 911? No, non-emergency line, please, he said, his voice surprisingly calm, steady. Yes, I need to report. I need to report a discovery. At the old Armand Models building in Soho. It's about a mannequin. But it's not a mannequin. You need to send someone. Now, Memphis, Tennessee, October 15th, 2024. A 23-year-old urban explorer named Jamal Carter stands outside the abandoned Regal Theater on South Main Street and hits record on his camera. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jamal, back with another Explore. Today we're checking out one of Memphis's most haunted locations, the Regal Theater, right here in the South Main Arts District. This place closed in 1996, 28 years abandoned. And according to local legends, people hear screaming coming from Theater 7 at night. Jamal has been doing urban exploration for 2 years, filming abandoned buildings across Memphis and posting videos to YouTube and TikTok. He's got 47,000 subscribers. Not enough to quit his job at FedEx. This is Memphis. Everyone works at FedEx, but enough to buy decent camera equipment and pay for gas to explore forgotten places across the Mid-South. He's not afraid of abandoned buildings. He's explored the old Sears Crosstown before they renovated it, the abandoned Linden Avenue train station, empty houses in Orange Mound. He wears proper safety gear, respirator mask, steel-toed boots, gloves. He checks floors before walking on them. He's careful, but the Regal Theater makes him nervous. He's been putting this explore off for 6 months. Every urban explorer in Memphis has a story about this place, about hearing voices in Theater 7, about cameras malfunctioning, about feeling like someone's watching you from the seats even though the building is empty. Jamal doesn't believe in ghosts. He believes in views. And a haunted theater in downtown Memphis? That's guaranteed to hit 100,000 views minimum. Jamal tries the tip line, gets a voicemail. He leaves a message, explains everything, offers to send photos, gives his phone number, waits. Nobody calls back. He posts an update video to YouTube, films himself sitting in his car. Yo, I need to talk to y'all. I went back to the theater. I looked at the prop up close. It's real. It's a real body. I tried calling the police. They don't believe me. They said if I keep calling, they're gonna charge me with trespassing. I don't know what to do. If anyone knows someone in Memphis PD, please help. This is real. He posts it. Within an hour, it has 50,000 views. But the comments turn on him. Stop milking this for views. You're obviously lying. Fake drama to boost engagement. Unsubscribing. This is cringe. His phone buzzes. Instagram DM. from an account called Diana_Jackson_1970. The message says, "That's my brother. I know his face. I've been looking at photos of him for 28 years. That's Terrell in your video. Please, help me. The police won't listen to me either." Jamal opens the account. It belongs to Diana Jackson, age 54, lives in Memphis. Jamal messages back, "I believe you. I went back and looked close. It's real. But police won't listen to me. We need to go to the police together. If you're his sister, they have to listen. They didn't listen for 28 years. Why would they listen now? They're covering it up," she says. "They closed the case wrong in '96. They don't want to admit they were wrong. So they're calling you a liar and threatening us. What do we do? I don't know. I don't know. The only way the police will investigate is if they're forced to. Okay, let's do it." The next morning, Jamal's story is everywhere, not just on YouTube. Local news, national news, CNN, Fox, MSNBC. Police accused of ignoring evidence in 28-year-old cold case. Family of missing actor says Memphis PD refuses to investigate. The pressure builds. Memphis City Council members start asking questions. The mayor's office releases a statement. Civil rights organizations get involved. And finally, on October 17th, 2 days after Jamal's arrest, Memphis police announced they're reopening the investigation into Terrell Jackson's disappearance. Detective Sarah Williams is assigned to the case. She's 52 years old, black woman, short gray hair, 28 years on the Memphis PD, 15 years in homicide. She calls Jamal that afternoon. "Mr. Carter, this is Detective Williams. I'd like to meet with you about the Regal Theater. Can you come to the station?" "Am I in trouble?" "No. The trespassing charges are being dropped. I need your help." Jamal meets her at the station. She takes him to an interview room. She has his YouTube video pulled up on a laptop. "I've watched this 20 times, Williams says. "I need you to tell me everything, every detail, even things you didn't put in the video," Jamal tells her. The first visit, filming the case, posting the video, the comments, going back, looking closer, the photos, calling the police, being dismissed, meeting Diana, being arrested. Williams takes notes. "I'm sorry about the arrest. That shouldn't have happened. Sometimes our department gets defensive, especially when the internet is involved. But I've been a homicide detective for 15 years, and I know a real body when I see one. You believe me? I believe the evidence. And your photos are evidence. Can you send them to me?" Jamal sends all 50 photos to her email. Williams studies them on her laptop. Her expression gets more serious with each photo. "This is Terrell Jackson. I'm certain of it. The question is how he ended up in that case and who put him there." Diana thinks it was the theater owner, Gerald Briggs. Gerald Briggs died in 1998, but his son Mitchell is still alive, lives in Germantown. He inherited the property. I'm going to need to talk to him. But first, I need to go to the theater and see this in person. Can I come? Williams looks at him. Normally, no. But you found him. You reported it. You got arrested for doing the right thing. Yeah, you can come. They drive to the Regal Theater in Williams's unmarked car. She has a warrant this time. Official access. She brings 2 uniformed officers and the medical examiner, Dr. Patricia Montgomery. They go through the front entrance. Williams has keys from the current owner, through the lobby, down to Theater 7. Williams pushes open the metal doors, shines her flashlight, sees the display case at the back of the theater. She walks to it slowly, studies it, gets close. Her expression is grim. Dr. Montgomery examines it, takes photos, makes notes. After 10 minutes, she turns to Williams. That's real. Human remains. Mummified. Preserved with formaldehyde. Based on tissue degradation, I'd estimate time of death late August to early September 1996. We need to open the case and remove the body for proper examination. Williams nods. She turns to Jamal. You were right. Thank you for not giving up. They call a crime scene team. Carefully open the display case. Remove Terrell Jackson's body. It's been 28 years, but he's been so well preserved that he's still identifiable. They take him to the medical examiner's office, perform an autopsy. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the back of the skull. Someone hit him hard enough to kill him, then preserved his body and put him on display. Williams calls Jamal 2 days later. "We need to talk. Can you come to the station?" Jamal meets her again. She has files spread across her desk. "We've confirmed identity through dental records. It's Terrell Jackson. Cause of death was blunt force trauma. Someone hit him in the head hard enough to fracture his skull. Then they preserved his body with embalming techniques and sealed him in that case. Who? That's what I need to figure out." Terrell disappeared September 6, 1996. The theater closed permanently September 8. 2 days later, the owner, Gerald Briggs, told police Terrell never showed up for the premiere, but Terrell's car was in the parking lot. So either Terrell walked away and left his car, or someone was lying. Gerald Briggs was lying, probably. But he's dead. Has been since '98. However, his son Mitchell is alive. I need to search Mitchell's property, but I need more evidence for a warrant. That's where you come in. How? Your followers, the people who've been commenting on your videos. They've been doing research, finding old articles, connecting dots. Can you ask them to send everything they've found to me? Every article, every photo, every connection. I need ammunition for this warrant. Jamal nods. I'll post today. He posts a video that evening. Detective Williams believes me now. They confirmed it's Terrell Jackson, but she needs help building a case. If you found articles or info about Terrell, about the theater, about Gerald Briggs or his son Mitchell, send it to Memphis PD. Send it to Detective Williams. Let's help get justice for Terrell. Diana Jackson waited 28 years for answers. That's not a victory. That's a tragedy that finally got resolved. 3 months later, in January 2025, Mitchell Briggs pleads guilty. Sentencing hearing is scheduled for February. Jamal attends, sits in the gallery with Diana Jackson and Terrell's other family members. Diana gives a victim impact statement. She walks to the front of the courtroom, looks at Mitchell Briggs. "You knew," she says. Her voice is shaking but strong. "For 26 years, you knew my brother was in that case. You knew we were suffering, every birthday, every Christmas, every anniversary. We wondered where Terrell was, if he was alive, if he was thinking of us. And you knew he was 5 minutes from my house. You knew, and you said nothing." Her voice breaks. "Your father killed my brother. That's his sin. But you let my brother stay dead. You let us suffer. That's your sin, and I will never forgive you for that." The judge sentences Mitchell Briggs to 15 years in prison, no early release. After the hearing, Diana hugs Jamal outside the courthouse. "Thank you for everything, for looking twice, for not giving up when they arrested you, for caring about my brother. I just made a video," Jamal says. "You did more than that. You gave us answers. You gave us closure. You brought Terrell home." She hands him something, an old photo. Terrell Jackson on the set of Chamber of Horrors, smiling, laughing with the crew, living his dream. "I want you to have this, to remember him, not as a prop in a case, but as a person, as my brother, as someone who loved acting and deserved to live." Jamal takes the photo. "I'll remember him." 2 weeks later, there's a memorial service for Terrell Jackson. They bury him properly this time, next to his wife, in Elmwood Cemetery. The marker reads, Terrell Jackson, 1970 to 1996. Actor, dreamer, brother, hidden for 28 years. Found by someone who looked twice. Rest in peace. Jamal stands at the service, looks at the casket being lowered into the ground, thinks about everything that happened. How close he came to not going back. How close he came to just accepting that it was a prop. How close Terrell came to never being found. Diana stands next to him. "What are you going to do now? You're famous. 500,000 subscribers. Production deals on the table." Jamal thinks about it. "I don't know. Keep exploring, I guess. But different now. More careful. More respectful. I know that abandoned doesn't mean empty. That forgotten doesn't mean gone. That's good, Diana says. The world needs people who look twice, who ask questions, who don't just accept the easy answer. Jamal looks at Terrell's grave, at his name carved in stone. Terrell Jackson wanted to be famous, wanted people to know his name, wanted to be remembered. For 28 years, people looked at him and walked away, until someone looked twice, until someone asked questions, until someone cared enough to not give up. And now Terrell Jackson will be remembered, not as a prop, not as a mystery, but as a person, as a brother, as an actor who loved his craft and died too young. Justice took 28 years, but it came because Jamal Carter hit record on his camera and refused to accept the easy answer, because he looked twice. Atlanta, Georgia, October 19th, 2024. Diana Mitchell stands in the bodies exhibition at the Georgia World Congress Center and feels something she hasn't felt in 25 years. Recognition, not the good kind. The kind that makes your blood run cold. The kind that makes you question your sanity even as every cell in your body screams that you're right. The kind that tells you the son you've been searching for since 1999 is standing right in front of you, plastinated, preserved, on display for $20 admission. But we need to go back. We need to understand how Diana got here, how a mother's 25-year search ends in a science museum, how a missing person case becomes a fight against an industry built on stolen bodies. Diana is 52 years old, works as a nurse at Emory Hospital, lives in a small apartment in southwest Atlanta. Raised her granddaughter Jasmine alone after Jasmine's mother Marcus's girlfriend died when Jasmine was 2 years old. Jasmine is 18 now, never met her father, only knows him through photos and Diana's stories. But Jasmine looks exactly like Marcus. Same eyes, same smile, same stubborn determination. It's Jasmine who asks Diana to go to the bodies exhibition. "Grandma, please." Jasmine tugged on her arm, her eyes bright with academic curiosity. "It's educational. I'm pre-med. I need to see real human anatomy." Diana doesn't want to. The idea of looking at dead bodies makes her stomach turn. After spending 25 years searching for her dead son, the last thing she wants is to see corpses on display. But Jasmine is persistent, and Diana has never been able to say no to that face. Marcus's face. "Okay." Diana finally agrees, letting out a slow breath she didn't realize she was holding. "But if I get uncomfortable, we leave immediately." Deal. They enter the first exhibition hall, the circulatory system. A full human body, skin removed, every vein and artery visible in red and blue. Preserved, displayed, real human tissue, real organs. Diana feels sick. These are real people? Her voice was a strained whisper. "Anonymous donors." Jasmine reads from the educational placard, her brow furrowed in concentration. "They donated their bodies to science. This is for education." Diana stares at the body. Someone's father, someone's son, someone's husband. And here he is, sectioned and displayed for entertainment disguised as education. "Look at this one, Grandma." Jasmine pulls Diana toward the basketball player specimen. Then she sees something. The right ankle, silver metal visible where the tissue is sectioned away. Surgical hardware, 2 titanium pins, screws. Diana stops moving, stares. Marcus had pins in his ankle. But lots of athletes have surgical pins. Thousands of people have ankle injuries. It doesn't mean anything. Diana forces herself to look away, but her eyes catch on something else. The left leg. The femur is exposed, sectioned to show bone structure. There's a line in the bone. An old fracture. Healed but visible. Marcus broke his leg when he was 12. Compound fracture. Her eyes move to the spine, the lower back. She counts the vertebrae. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The placard says, "Typical human spine. 5 lumbar vertebrae." This specimen has 6. Marcus had 6. Congenital abnormality. She grabs the display railing to keep from falling. 3 distinctive markers. Ankle pins, leg fracture, extra vertebrae. What are the odds? She looks at the head. forces herself to look at the face, the plastinated tissue, the exposed jaw, the visible teeth. Upper left molar, gold crown. Marcus got that crown his sophomore year at Morehouse. Thought it looked cool. Diana said it was a waste of money. He got it anyway with his work-study paycheck. The crown is right there, gold gleaming under the museum lights. 4 distinctive markers. 4 things that match her son. Jasmine, Diana's voice comes out as a whisper. Baby, look at this. What? Jasmine looked up, pulled from her pre-med fascination by the strange tone in her grandmother's voice. Diana points at the ankle with a shaking hand. The pins. See them? Jasmine looks. Yeah. Surgical hardware. Someone had an injury. Your father had pins in his ankle. Diana's voice was low, intense. Basketball injury. Freshman year. Jasmine's eyes widen. Grandma. And the leg. Look at the bone. That fracture line. Your father broke his leg when he was 12. Lots of people break their legs. Count the spine bones, the lower back. Jasmine counts slowly. Her face goes pale. There's 6. Your father had 6. Congenital abnormality. The doctor said it was rare. Diana points at the gold tooth. Her finger is trembling so badly she can barely hold it steady. And that crown, he got it sophomore year. I have pictures at home of him smiling with that exact tooth. They stand there in silence, both staring at the specimen, neither wanting to say what they're both thinking. It can't be him, Jasmine finally says, shaking her head as if to clear the thought. These are anonymous donors, from China or somewhere. This is a science exhibit. I know. Diana's voice cracks, and she clutched the railing tighter. But what if, Grandma, you've been looking for him for 25 years. You see him everywhere. Remember last year? The grocery store? You thought that man was him. Diana remembers. I need to ask someone, Diana says, her voice hardening with a sudden cold resolve. She approaches a museum staff member. I help you with the basketball player. In the skeletal muscular section, do you have any information about who donated that body? The smile falters slightly. All our donors are anonymous, ma'am. That's standard practice to protect privacy. But you must have records, where they came from, how they were sourced. Diana leaned in, her eyes fixed on the young woman's name tag. That information isn't available to visitors. Ma'am, I understand this can be emotional. But these specimens come from certified medical suppliers. They're all verified donors who signed legal documents. My son went missing 25 years ago. That body has surgical pins that match his ankle injury, a broken bone that matches his leg fracture, an extra vertebrae that matches his spine abnormality, and a gold tooth crown that I really can't help you with this. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, we have a quiet room where you can sit down and I'm not overwhelmed. Diana's voice rose, attracting glances from nearby visitors. I'm telling you that specimen is my son. The staffer reached for a walkie-talkie on her belt. A manager arrives within minutes. White man, 40s. Name tag says, Brian, exhibition manager. What seems to be the issue? He addressed the staff member, not Diana. The staff member speaks before Diana can. This woman thinks one of the specimens is her missing son. Brian turns to Diana with practiced professional concern. Ma'am, I understand the exhibition can bring up strong emotions for some visitors. I'm not having an emotional reaction. Diana planted her feet, refusing to be moved. I'm looking at my son's body on display in your museum. All of our specimens are ethically sourced from verified donors in Asia. They signed legal documents donating their bodies to science and education. My son didn't donate his body. He was 19 years old. He disappeared from Atlanta in October 1999, and that specimen has 4 unique medical identifiers that match his records. Brian's professional concern is hardening into annoyance. Ma'am, you're making serious accusations without evidence. If you continue to disrupt the exhibition, I'll have to ask security to escort you out. I'm not disrupting anything. I'm asking you to check your records on where that body came from. We don't share donor information. Privacy laws. I'm sorry, but you need to leave now. I paid to be here. I have a right to bound. Brian signals to security. Two large men in uniform approach, both looking at Diana like she's a problem that needs removing. Diana goes home and starts calling attorneys. She finds numbers online, civil rights lawyers, personal injury lawyers, anyone who might take a case against a museum. Most won't take her call. 15 calls, 15 rejections. On Tuesday afternoon, Diana tries one more number. Angela Brooks. A crisp, no-nonsense voice answered. "Hi, my name is Diana Mitchell. I need help with a case involving bodies, the exhibition, and—" "Hold on, let me transfer you to Miss Brooks." There was a brief click, then a new voice. A moment later, a woman's voice, strong, direct. "This is Angela Brooks. You're calling about Bodies exhibition?" "Yes." "Can you help me?" Diana's voice was barely a whisper. "Send me the documents. Give me 48 hours. I'll call you back." Angela files the petition Friday morning. Monday morning, Fulton County Superior Court. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. Diana sits next to Angela in the courtroom. Across the aisle, 5 attorneys in expensive suits representing Bodies Exhibition Incorporated. Lead counsel is Richard Whitmore, white man, 60s, with silver hair and a voice that drips condescension. Judge Morrison reviews the petition. Judge Morrison makes her decision. Diana can see it in her face before she speaks. The judge straightened a stack of papers on her bench. "I'm denying the petition. Miss Mitchell, I understand your pain. I cannot imagine searching for a child for 25 years. But you haven't provided sufficient evidence to justify halting the exhibition or mandating invasive DNA testing. The similarities you've identified, while notable, are not unique enough to overcome the legal protections afforded to educational institutions." The gavel falls. Diana can't breathe. Jasmine is crying next to her. Angela is gathering papers, her jaw tight with frustration. Whitmore and his team stand. One of the younger attorneys looks at Diana and smirks. She hears him whisper to a colleague as they walk past. "Grief makes people crazy." Angela files a massive civil lawsuit. Fulton County Superior Court. Defendants: Bodies Exhibition Incorporated, Millennium Anatomical Services, David Schubert, Grady Memorial Hospital, estate of Bernard Hayes, deceased. Claims: wrongful death, illegal trafficking of human remains, negligent supervision, intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of Georgia's disposition of dead bodies law. Damages sought: $25 million. The defendants hire expensive law firms immediately, file motions to dismiss, claim immunity, claim good faith, claim statute of limitations. Judge Morrison denies most motions. This case is going to trial. Discovery begins immediately. The discovery process is brutal. Depositions, document requests, each defendant pointing fingers at everyone else. Bodies Exhibition. We trusted our supplier. We had no way to verify every specimen's origin. Millennium, Schubert. I relied on official paperwork from Grady Hospital. Bernard Hayes defrauded everyone, not just the Mitchells. Grady Hospital. Hayes was a rogue employee who violated our policies. We terminated him when we discovered his misconduct. Estate of Hayes. Our client is deceased and cannot defend himself. Any claims against him are speculative. No one accepting responsibility. Everyone claiming ignorance. Diana sits through every deposition, watches these people in expensive suits explain why they're not responsible for what happened to her son. Why it's not their fault Marcus was displayed like an artifact for a decade. David Schubert's deposition is particularly enraging. Angela questions him. "Mr. Schubert, how much did you pay for the body you received from Grady Hospital in December 1999? "I don't recall the exact amount." He stared at a point on the wall, just past Angela's head. "Records show $800. Does that refresh your memory? If the records indicate that, then yes. And how much did you sell that body to Bodies Exhibition for?" "I don't recall." $7,000. Does that refresh your memory? Schubert's jaw tightens. "That's standard industry markup. We process the specimens, prepare them for educational use, handle shipping. You made over $6,000 profit from Marcus Mitchell's stolen body." "I didn't know it was stolen." I relied on documentation from Grady Hospital. Did you ever verify that documentation? Cross-check it with missing persons reports? That's not my responsibility. That's law enforcement's job. So, you take no responsibility for trafficking a murdered teenager's body? I provided a legal service based on official government documentation. Schubert finally met Angela's gaze, his eyes cold. If someone in that chain lied to me, that's not my fault. Diana watches him. This man who profited from her son's body, who feels no remorse, no guilt, just anger at being questioned. The trial is scheduled for March 2025, 4 months away. But Diana knows something the defendants don't. She's not fighting for money. She's fighting for accountability, for truth, for every family who's lost someone to this industry. And she's not fighting alone anymore. Marcus's body is finally released from the exhibition. DNA evidence removed his anonymity. He can no longer be displayed as an anonymous educational specimen. Diana sits in Angela's office reviewing trial preparation documents. Diana pushed the folder back across the desk. I want them to admit what they did. In open court. Under oath. I want the world to know they displayed my son for profit and didn't care enough to verify if he was stolen. Angela smiles. It's the first real smile Diana has seen from her. Then we go to trial. The trial date approaches. Diana prepares her testimony, reviews, documents, meets with Angela daily. Whatever happens, Angela tells her, placing a hand over Diana's on the conference table. You've already won something important. You found Marcus. You brought him home. You exposed an industry that exploits the dead. That matters. But if we lose the trial, then we appeal. And if we lose the appeal, we keep fighting. This isn't just about money, Diana. This is about accountability. And you've already forced them to acknowledge what they did. Diana knows Angela is right, but she still wants the trial. Still wants to see these people on the stand, under oath, forced to explain themselves. She wants justice. The story ends here. Not with a verdict, not with arrests, not with closure, because that's not how justice works for people like Diana. For black mothers who lose their sons and spend 25 years searching. For families whose loved ones are stolen and commodified. Sometimes you don't get justice. Sometimes you just get truth. And truth is something. Diana stands outside the Closed Bodies exhibition in downtown Atlanta. The building is dark, empty. The touring company canceled their Atlanta shows permanently after Marcus was identified. A handwritten sign on the door. Exhibition postponed pending investigation. Diana takes a photo, posts it to the Facebook group. They close the show, but the fight isn't over. Trial starts March 10th, 2025. I'll be there every day. I won't stop until every body in every exhibition is properly identified and every family gets the answers they deserve. Marcus's case opened a door. Now we walk through it together. The post gets thousands of comments within hours, people sharing their own stories, people offering support, people demanding change. Diana closes her phone, slipping it back into her purse. Looks at the darkened exhibition center one more time. I kept my promise, baby, she whispers to Marcus. I found you. I brought you home, and I'm making sure they answer for what they did. This isn't over. She walks away. The trial is in 4 months. The fight continues. But Diana isn't fighting alone anymore. And that matters.